Well, we'll then continue with my colleagues here from National Archives, Reko Etelävuori and Markus Merenmies, with their presentation, Preservation Services for Public Administration, Mass Digitizing and Digital Preservation.
Thank you. Hopefully you are still awake. The heavy stuff begins now. This is a background. I'm going to talk about the mass digitization planning project and what we are doing with that at the moment. So this is the background, what happened in Finland, and 2016 came out a law which lets the National Archives of Finland to dispose analog records if certain conditions are fulfilled. And basically, it's a short caption in the law, and it says that National Archives is the authority which decides the permanently preserved records can or can't be disposed after digitization in analog form. And disposing is allowed when it can happen without risking the authenticity of the information content which was in analog record. And that's kind of legislation backbone. And then came letter of intent later, and that's governmental kind of political statement that this is a good thing, but still there's no budget for doing this. And a bit about terms. We have been doing digitization in National Archives since 1999. But the aim has been a bit different. It has been actually the access to create better access to files. So what happens in mass digitization, it's a bit different, because the aim is to dispose 90% of the paper that will be digitized. So it's about creating a digital master file. And this is, we have several process charts about how the process goes forward, but this is, I think this is the first one we draw when we started planning this process. And the green balloons are something that we described in our planning process or project, and the yellow ones are something that even set requirements to our project, or we set requirements from our project. And our in-house digitization is like this. So we don't dispose anything. It's material that is already in here. And this is how the project is going on. So first was the planning project, ended in February this year, and now is the other planning project going on. And this is how it goes until the year 2013. And at the moment, aim is to start the full production in 2022. Before that is first phase of production, which is basically needs all the functionalities that will be in the full production. It's just small scale. We are thinking about 12 kilometers during those 2 years, but it can still change. And what came out from the first planning project? First thing was the roadmap. We started with that. So we created a survey to agencies which still host the records. And goal was to find out that which kind of records there is and how much. And that was actually the base for even planning the infrastructure, how to digitize those files. And the other one, the second one, is implementation plan for digitization process, and it's pretty precise plan. It basically says that how we would create those authentic records, and that's something I haven't seen anywhere in the world this far. So if you know that someone has written those kind of process plans, please inform me, because I would like to see if it's a bit similar for ours. Then cost-benefit analysis about moving to digital world or staying in analog world, which means building new buildings. And there was also more precise logistical plan, which was done by Southeastern University of Applied Sciences, and then report presenting current status of mass digitization internationally, and that was done by us during the project, and it's available online. And then we wrote a draft for requirements, that what things need to be fulfilled if you want to dispose the analog documents. And then planning project 2, which is now going on. And it's basically testing the plans that we wrote on paper in real life, because that's kind of how the things go. So they might look good on paper, but then real life brings you a bit of challenges. And then we are doing proof of concept, and that's about OpenTrack scanner, mass digitization scanner. We already have tested those few years ago with our old material, and then we decided to go with different kind of solutions. But we have to try it again to see if we find benefits from that kind of infrastructure. And during that POC, we are executing also OCR kind of research, that which kind of image and which kind of OCR engine will do the best work for us. And in these POCs, we are trying the real material from the agencies. We have borrowed those. And we have production management system in our in-house digitization, but what we have described in our implementation plan is a bit different. It's a bit heavier and more kind of sophisticated program. So we are going to do specifications on that. And my aim is to finalize requirements for digitization process, and to look at formats again, for example, formats, because now we are creating TIFFs and that is something we need to take a look at. For example, about the image quality, and I'm kind of trying to get rid of the man and the eye visual checks and move to technical charts. How to say that this image is better than this one. And at the moment, our plan is to create pilot on 450 shelf meters during those months next year. And this is what we have at this time, at present. So about 70 million digital images, which is about 4% from our collections. But you could say that we have digitized most of the used collections, because about 90% of our customer visits are electronic. Of course, it's based on statistics which are not precise all the time. And this is what's waiting for us in agencies. About 160 linear kilometers, only permanently preserved records. And central repository in Mikkeli has 70 shelf kilometers at the moment, and there's already, I think, 35 kilometers from Helsinki transferred there. So it's either new building or doing something else. And about that authentic digital record, I just put some thoughts here. So it's huge difference in thinking that it's not only access, it's actually the master. So you can scan something and go to the paper and look that is it in the paper, because basically you don't have the paper anymore. So it brings some challenges and demands on the process, how the digitization has been done. And I think that it needs more precise documentation of the process, how the analog material has turned to digital, and life cycle events from the processing chain of the analog material. But every step from the process, even in the papers in the agencies right now, there might be loss of information. So scanning is not the only part where information can be lost. And image quality, as we know that we can't really produce the quality that we have, for example, in maps, because we are going to scan things faster. It's not possible. So, but it needs to be set in some kind of level, and it needs to be monitored all the time, because otherwise things might get out of hands. And that's what we are trying to do. And image quality in our case, it's based on test targets and not just looking at the files. And that's kind of base for the OCR recognition too. Here's the devices that we are using now in Siltavuori, but but I can skip this pretty fast since you are going there after these presentations. And this is a list of specifications for digitization that we have done. So 2008 came quality criteria, and they are not that precise on telling what kind of files should you create in your process, but they are more like high level instructions how to do digitization. And in 2016 came the technical requirements for digitized content, and it's basically documentation of the transfer packets that we ingest to our system, digital archives, and what kind of metadata should you provide when you move your images to our system. And then these drafts that will be hopefully written again this year, so there won't be a draft anymore. And at the moment we are looking at transfer packets like this. So master files are still TIFFs, and access files are JPEGs, and Alto XML files are something that we recognize from the access files. And mix folder will have the metadata which about the capture process in mix scheme. And there's a lot of metadata that we still want to put to TIFF tags and to JPEG as EXIF files or EXIF fields. I think that about 50% from our customers visit digital archives at the moment, but we have several interfaces where you can see the files that are digitized to digital archives. And here is some results from our survey, which we did. And USA proved to be the biggest digitizer, and we were third. And these figures are from year 2017. But we had some projects going on here. For example, we were scanning microfiches, so we get good results from that. And as you know, that it's pretty much based on what you digitize. If you just want figures, don't digitize maps or anything like that. And this is something that I hope that would have looked a bit different, but it still looked like this. So archival master file is pretty much always TIFF file. And TIFF is a big file, and it takes a lot of space in data storages. So I as I said earlier, I try to look at the JPEG files versus TIFF files this year on image quality, and Markus can talk more about the preservational facts with you. But thank you.
Good afternoon, colleagues from different countries. It's nice to be between you and nice Finnish weather out there. And I hope you already expecting to have a walking trip to see all these digitizing machines over there. So I work as a development manager here, and my topics are relating to digital preservation and developing all these technical requirements and stuff, and a little bit consulting public administration about our requirements and how they should live with their records, so we can keep those permanently in our custody. So digital preservation in 15 minutes is quite challenging task, but I want to be quick. So starting with some key principles that what are the leading ideas between how we do. So first, we are preserving information, not the systems. Not softwares, no servers, no this kind of things. When discussing about this topic with colleagues abroad, and there have been quite a lot of ideas, you should preserve some kind of records management system to do things and that. But we think that, okay, we are archives, we preserve information. We have other organizations in Finland, for example, museums and so on, so they're doing different stuff. But how are we going to have this kind of information? So this digital content should be produced certain way. So high quality process, high quality information. So we have guidelines for the process, how to create those records. And we would like to have a lot of metadata. A sufficient records management metadata and all those restrictions and this kind of structures predefined as early as possible during the process. Then we can handle those much more easier. And if those metadata elements are in defined XML structure, it's even more easier. And we have a set of file formats which are better and some which are not so good, and practices in what purpose you should use certain file formats. And information, and in the long run, we believe in migration. So migration for the file formats and migration also for the metadata. It's quite often when we talk about migration, we think about how you migrate from JPEG to some other format and TIFF to another format. But we also have to think about migration of metadata. A little bit higher level picture about this, so strategic points. Everything has to be digital. We think in Finland that digital economy is much better than paper economy. And we have created our processes to be the process-to-process integration. So records management process to archival processes should be integrated. Efficiency that way. So Reko talked about digitizing, and going to talk to you more later on. So this match digitization is to get rid of all those papers. Authenticity, integrity, accessibility, those are the key values what we are emphasizing. So if we can keep only those digital records, but if we can't trust for those, so what for? We are facing challenges because digital content is, I would say, developing much faster than we are. So quite rapid change has been realized in a few years that digital records are not only files, those PDF files and TIFF files, and so much more of the digital content is now in structured format, in databases, registries, linked together in certain different sources. And how we can handle this kind of information, how we can get a snapshot that we said, okay, this kind of situation was in the summer 2018. New data models, new kind of challenges like this IFC about modeling a building or even whole town as one file. And then you can see and calculate and analyze it, everything from these data models. Geographic information and so research data, plenty of different kind of new challenges. One very interesting topic is how we handle the situation about open linked databases, that we have data sources which are available. All the public administration systems are using those, but if those databases are somehow gone, are changing and moving and values are not the same, how are we going to have this whole package as a linked together? Back to roots, back to basics. So when thinking about what we are going to preserve next 600 years and so, archival information package. In National Digital Library Project, we have a joint, I would say, development task to define common package structure, which has a similar ideas for both libraries and archives and museums. And it's no point to see all the text, but it's deliberately very small. But we have own sections and common sections. If you think about files and all these technical measures, those are the same. But archive have their own descriptive metadata sections and using own elements. Libraries, their own. We are using EAD, they are using MARC. Each sector has their own block, I would say, in this structure. So quite a lot of cooperation with is supported this way. And technical elements and all these tools to handle those technical stuff, how to validate, for example, TIFF file, PDFA file, and how to create and validate all these technical migration elements. That's why we have a cooperation here in Finland and also internationally. And all this software level stuff, or I would say technical infrastructure level, they're taking care of bit level preservation and taking care of all these disks and tapes and wherever those bits and bytes are. But it's not our task to take care of this because we are focusing about higher level and this information level. And as I mentioned, we have a selection of file formats. Naturally, a PDF file is very handy, TIFF files are good, but we are using quite a lot of these structured files, CSV files, XML files, and all those methods to describe the technical elements of the databases. The dialogue between records management and, I would say, archival management. So organization should be aware of certain tasks that they should do. So there are list of file formats they should create when records are going to be preserved permanently, and set of metadata requirements and this kind of guidelines into active use. And one quite normal question is when those records can be transferred to us. Because when thinking about old practice in paper documents, it was very long, and are they going to use the same transfer period? But we think that as soon as possible. Whenever case is closed, you can transfer it to us. But technically speaking, about 2 to 3 years, less than 10 or 5 years or something like this. So we would get those records very fresh, and that would be much easier for us to handle those. And our task is to take care of this long-term preservation and validate those files and formats and handle those. And we have realized that it's not easy to say that how to create high-quality PDF files. If we say that create those, but how to validate those. So we are now developing sort of toolbox for those that they can check if those files are I would say, produced according to standards. And they are using this Vera PDF tool to validate the quality, and it's then, according all the standards, good enough to be preserved. So we are teaching them to behave as a digital preservation way. And we provide digital preservation as service. Earlier we just said that we have only requirements, and that's, but now we think, okay, we have a service. So we have a certain portfolio to describe all the things that, okay, we go step by step, and we want to be reactive and help our public administration to create files for us. We provide support and technical interfaces and guidelines and practices and tutorials and that kind of things. So it starts from the appraisal decision. So it was easier that way, that we have specific steps. Because in earlier stages, we got some kind of contact points that they said that, hi, we would like to transfer you these files. Is it okay? But no, it is not okay. What are you going to transfer to us? And then we discussed about every those topics about several years, and then we realized that those files are not worth preserving. So first we start with, is this what that they're going to have and what that they're producing worth preserving? So question, what to preserve? And when we are ready with that, then we are, in the long run, planning for transferring, when are they going to transfer, and what format they are going to use for those. And when all these kind of elements are ready and defined, then it's quite easy to go to the transfer stage. Little bit complex picture, sorry for that. But it says that we have I would say OA's compliant system, but modified in the Finnish National Archives way. So we have a records creator which create sort of a package with plenty of metadata and good file formats and deliver that to us. It's not an archival package, but it's some kind of pre-archival package. We validate it and we create those METS packages which are much more complicated. And then we deliver those packages even further to this National Digital Libraries long-term preservation system. And that machine does all these technical gimmicks for those files and checks and validates and produces huge technical reports about quality. And that's it, then it's safe there. And we can get all those metadata elements to archival database and provide service for those. At the moment, those files we are receiving are too fresh to be freely available, but this concept is about that. And there's an ever-going loop between those. So organizations want to use those records. They are, in previous years, delivered to us, and so they can have a direct access for those using IDs. So what is in the archives can be used directly from records management systems. A little bit about content types that we are receiving and storing. So records, yes, quite a lot of those in certain document format files. PDF A file is very common, I would say, different versions of this. At the moment, we accept also open office file formats. It's very handy for, I would say, Excel sheet style of information and TIFF files and so. But those are very, I would say, easy topics. But we want to about this quality, so we say discussing and using and testing those Open Planners Foundation pre-validation tools and try to have a little bit more better quality for information. Databases, at the moment we're using CSV files, XML files, quite a lot. And basic idea is to transfer information to a little bit plain format without any software dependencies and describe it using ADDML structure. This ADDML is, I would say, Nordic cooperation product. And now we are working a little bit more to develop it a little bit further with our metadata elements. And one tool we are using this CART, which is a Swiss project, and it's a little bit more database oriented, not that much information oriented, but it's good to have a toolbox, different kind of machines. And I would say digital registries for paper documents to support automatical ingestion of machines. But thank you for your kind time, and I suppose we have enough time for questions or something like that.